Are we on? Are we on? Are we on? Do we have sound? Is my little Mikey thing going? It's going. Okay. Let me turn off my local sound here so I don't get feedback. Feedback, 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 feedback. There we go. All right. I'm a little late, but I'm here. Let me get situated. There's Jeff. Uh-oh. Okay. There we go. Okay, computer, cooperate. Sometimes this thing drives me nuts. It just... So I think I told you before, but I had this thing set up so it backs up once a week. And because I had it backing up every day and it was driving me crazy. Because it takes a while because there's a lot of stuff on it. And so I did it once a week. Well, it seemed like it was always backing up when I was doing the live stream. And so I stopped it. And I started it on like a... It says it's random. So you never really know. But so I started it... I basically restarted it on like a Thursday or something, thinking, well, if it's doing once a week, it'll probably do it every Thursday. And that didn't appear to be happening. And what was actually happening is, yeah, it only backs up once a week unless it thinks you need it more often, and then it'll just do it whenever it wants to. So I don't know whether changing it to once a week really mattered. Not that that has anything to do with building models. It does have to do with the live stream, but that's it. Oh, so hey, what is happening, everybody? It's Jim. It's me. It's me. And I realized something. There's probably people out there that don't actually, that only know, hey, it's the ShutterAce guy. But actually, my name's Jim Deck, and I'm all over the place out there in different places doing lots of weird stuff. So if you run across a Jim Deck and there's something weird attached to it, it's probably me. Okay, so this week's book, I found the book that I wanted to find last week, and you know where it was? It was behind something that was in front of it on the shelf. So it was where I thought it was. It was just there was something else in front of it. So anyway, this is Flying Tiger, Chenault of China. It's by Robert Lee Scott, Jr., author of God is My Co-Pilot. And it oh, so what am I thinking? I already lost my train of thought. So Bob Scott was an AVG member, if I remember correctly. Let's see here. Yes. I'm half asleep, sorry. But yeah, so Bob Scott was an AVG. He stayed in after the U.S. Army Air Force took over the AVG and absorbed them into their organization, and that's, you know, when the name Flying Tiger, the label got basically spread out to everything that was in the U.S. Army Air Force in China. So it kind of lost its meaning after, what was that, July 4th of 42, I think. So anyway, so this, you can see, I picked this up at a book sale for $1. And it was, let me see which printing this is. It is autographed. So Library of Congress, okay, copyright 1959. Okay, and it's in really good shape. I've read it once or twice, but so right in here, it's got passage and Bob Scott's autograph. It says Phoenix, Arizona, July 4th, 1966, which happens to be a year I was born, but to my good friends, Bill and Dee, Brian, Timothy, Tracy, Leslie, and Robin Hunter. So I'm guessing Brian, Timothy, Tracy, Leslie, and Robin were probably all Bill and Dee's kids. Most sincerely, Bob Scott. It's in pretty good shape. The cover is a little worn out, but it's been so long since I read this, I couldn't really tell you a lot about it. But it goes through a lot of the frustration. If I remember correctly, it goes through a lot of the politics and stuff that were going on. With Chenault. Chenault was I don't know. You know, things were a little interesting during the Second World War when it came to these guys, these basically these American mercenaries that had been over, and not just in China and not just flying airplanes, but in other parts of the world doing, fighting like the Eagle squadrons in England and whatnot, and then when they got absorbed back into the U.S. forces, they in a lot of cases didn't get the treatment they probably deserved. Put it that way. Anyway, so yeah, so that's the book for the week. Interesting book. It's not very long. I don't know how easy this is to find because I don't know that I've ever seen another copy of this. 285 pages. It's got that old library book smell. Love it. Anyway, so what else do we got to talk about? Oh, I know. Hang on. We got to talk about this. You know what this is, right? This is the raffle prize. You have until the end of February. This year being leap year, February 29th. Right? So you get a whole extra day. You won't get this. You won't get the extra day for another 4 years, so take advantage of it. No. I'm kidding. 1/35 scale Trumpeter SA-2 guideline missile. This is a good kit. It's a nice kit. It's not a ridiculous number of parts, like 150 something parts. Excuse me. And all you have to do is send a photo of a recently completed build, your build, not somebody else's, to ShutterAce at ShutterAce.com. That gets your name in the hat, so to speak. 1 entry per person. Please only send me 1 photo so I don't have to choose, because I won't. I'll just take the top one. The first one in the email, the one that's at the top, that's the one that'll get used. So if you just send me 1 photo, there's 0 chance that you're going to get a photo posted that you didn't want posted. Right? And we'll have a drawing for this beginning of March, and I send it to you wherever you are, and it costs you nothing. Well, it does cost you something. We will the announcement, the video that the announcement's in, we show pictures of all the entries, which goes in the YouTube video. So yeah, your build photo will be in one of these videos. Okay, so what's going on here? What's going on here? So what I've been so we finished the, what was the last thing we finished? The Stuka. So, and I can't believe it. We're coming up the end of February. We finished the P61. I haven't even started working on the diorama base. I got the plaster on it, but I have some paint. I'm not really. I need to get some like sand colored tile grout or something. And typically what I do with something like that is I'll paint it, and while the paint's wet, I'll throw the groundwork on it, so I don't have to like glue it on. Just let the paint stick it. I mean, right. I mean, why not? The paint's got to stick it to the ground anyway. So I don't see any point in letting the paint dry and then putting white glue all over it and then sprinkling the stuff. It doesn't make any sense to me. So there we are. So that's. But anyway, the model, the P61 itself is done. The Stuka got done. So I started working on the Tamiya FW190F-8. And if you've been watching the Facebook page, you've seen some stuff on that. I've been videoing the process. I'm going to put it all together in a video. I've got a lot of video I got to edit down. But that's okay. It's coming out really, really nice. Let me show you here. It's so this is the, well, you see the background pic there? So that's what we're going for. This is late war Hungary. 1SG2, I think. Anyway, let me kill that so that we don't have that in the background making the stuff do anything weird. There, that's better. Okay, so as you can see, this thing is coming out really, really, really nice. Kit decals. Yeah, I used the decal for the fuselage band. And it went on fine. So I still haven't put the rockets on and whatnot. So right now, this thing is waiting for a gloss coat. And then weathering and the winter camo. And then we'll go from there. The flat coat, but I got all the rest of the parts over here. Here's the prop and the tank, and it's got the rockets. I got the rockets for it. I cut the lower gear doors off the landing gear, so that I got to do some detail painting. I still have to do the chrome and stuff, but I took those lower gear doors off because they get all caked up with mud. So that's why I did that. What are you trying to do to me here? Live shows are always so exciting because you never know what's going on. Okay. Anyway, so like I said, that's coming along really well. I'm really happy about that. The gloss coat will hopefully be going on after this live stream. We'll get that on there. It still smells a little bit because I used paint thinner instead of lacquer thinner to thin the Model Master enamels with. Just for the record, so the bottom, I actually had RLM 65 or 76. So I had RLM 76. However, I did not have any 74 and 75, which are the top two colors. So I used Gunship Gray for the 74, which is the darker one, that color there, and then I used Dark Gold Gray for the 75. And honestly, as wacky as the whole German color scheme thing gets, and matching colors and stuff, it's fine. I'm not concerned about it at all. There's so much leeway. Um, what's interesting is, there is evidence that late war 190s had natural metals. Large part of the lower wing was natural metal, and sometimes the gear bays and whatnot. But I obviously didn't do that here. I couldn't tell from this picture. Pull it back up here. I couldn't tell that. Let me get out of the way. That does not. I don't see any natural metal here. That looks like paint under there. So that's how I left it. So anyway, I have it here. Let me show you what else I'm working on. So this, you may have seen this before. This is the Monogram F-104 Tiger Meat kit, or one of the Tiger Meat kits that I was thinking about doing this scheme, the NASA. Which way am I going? This way. The NASA F-104 scheme. But honestly, this kit's not great. And I'm not going to I don't want to put that much work into what this is going to be. So since we got two kits on opposite ends of the scales here, let's talk about this. So what makes this less desirable, I guess? Well, for a lot of people, it has raised panel lines, which it does. That's not really an issue for me. However, on this kit, the panel lines on this thing, I don't know, can you see them at all? They are so petite, for lack of a better word, that they're almost, they are so fine that they're almost impossible to see. Excuse me. So, I'm going to end up sanding this thing smooth, is what's going to happen. So I'm not really getting too concerned with these gaps and stuff on the intakes and whatnot, and here. I'm not really getting too excited about all that. I had to fix the horizontal stab here because when I originally glued it on, it was cockeyed. It wasn't lined up straight. So I had to take my little razor saw blade here and get under here, and because it's glued here, it's not glued under here, and cut it. Cut this off, and then I had to shim it again. I don't know if you can see the shim in there, but there's a 20,000 shim in there to get it all back to where it needed to be and get it lined up. It looks pretty good now. But what so I don't know what I'm going to do for a paint scheme. I'm probably going to button this thing all up and do it in flight or something. Like I said, I'm not worried about the gaps and stuff because there's going to be plenty of putty on this thing, and I'm going to end up sanding the whole thing smooth. So it's a, $3, $4, $5 kit. I'm not gonna worry too much about it, and I'm not gonna put a $20 decal sheet on this. I'll get a Hasekawa kit or something when I want to do that. Do the NASA one if I ever get around to that. But back to the differences. So shape-wise and stuff, it's fine. The fit's not great. I don't know when this mold originally came out. It was probably early 70s. The detail's fine. There's nothing wrong with the detail. I'm sure you can't see in there. Maybe you can, but I just dry brushed it. It's black Stynylrez Res primer. No, it's not. It's gray Stynylrez Res primer. And then I painted the instrument panels with black Stynylrez Res primer with a paintbrush, actually. And then I just dry brushed it with some I don't know, some gray, some light gray. I don't know which one. I don't remember. Wasn't too worried. No, I didn't. I dry brushed it with XF2. Tamiya XF2, that's right. So, you know, the detail's okay. The fit, however, isn't great. I had to, like, do some creative clamping on some stuff that wasn't lining up right so that I could pull it into shape as it was drying and whatnot. But it's fine. You know, it's not gonna be this, right? But it's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. So what makes this so much better? And why is that important? Well, what makes it better is everything fits. There's no putty on this. Are there places that I could have used some? Yes. But I chose not to because I didn't think it was really that noticeable, in my opinion. One place would be that wing root right there. And do you need, let me get rid of that. That's not really helping. Anyway. It just looks like a panel line. I mean, but you know, it's one of those things. It's close enough. You could call it either way. So I decided, nah, I'm not going to go there. There's one of the fastest I've built in a while. Yeah, Jeff was building the A8 while I was building this. And he's actually done. There's a small little gap right here where the wing fits into the fuselage. It looks worse on the camera than it does in real life. It's fine. Who cares? So, this has, it's a modern kit, so it's got engraved panel lines, and these are very, very, very finely engraved. You can see them there, but I don't think even looking on the camera here, you really get a sense of how fine those lines are. So it'll be interesting once I get the gloss coat on here. We'll see how washes and stuff flow, and I got to figure out my process here because the winter camo is going to cover a lot of stuff up. So I got to figure out exactly how I'm going to make this happen. But yeah, I've got. I don't have a whole lot of time in this right now, but there's going to be a lot of time in filling and sanding and shaping and stuff like that on this one. This, I've actually got more time in the decals than I do building it. It was probably ready for paint. I mean, external paint. It was probably ready for external paint in the matter of a couple of hours, and that was because I had to wait for the cockpit paint to dry. If you're using strictly acrylics, you know, that's not really an issue for you, but for those of us that are still using poison, we gotta wait. We gotta wait for the stuff to dry before we can put it all, you know, we got to wait for one color dry, go to the next color. And anyway, so once that was done, The external paint went really quick. It took me longer to figure out what I was going to use to replace the 74-75 than it did to actually do it. The RLM 60 or 76 is easy. That wasn't an issue. I actually brush painted those wheel wells after the fact. But, and then the top pattern I just freehanded. I freehanded the modeling. And then it took, oh geez, 3 hours probably to do the decals, because there's quite a bit of stencils, and you gotta kind of do them in stages, because you don't want to. You got stuff that's like right next to each other and on top of each other and stuff, and you don't want something moving while you're trying to do something else. So you kind of try and work in different places, and you got to be careful where you put your fingers and all of that stuff. So that kind of becomes a logistical thing or a tactical thing or whatever. So yeah, this is, I don't know, 6-8 hours maybe worth of work, if that. And I'll have, if I shoot the gloss on it tonight, do some washes, some exhaust stains and stuff, shoot some flat on it. Well, I don't know, I might do the winter camo. And see, I got to do the basic weathering, do the winter camo, do some more weathering on that, and then flat coat it. Maybe that's the order I'll do it in. Something like that. So, but point being, yeah, you can knock one of these out really, really, really fast because they go together so well. And you're really spending your time on paint and decals and stuff like that and weathering. Whereas with something like this, and if you watch the B26 build and even some of the P61 stuff and whatnot, something like this, most of your time is spent doing body work. And that's fine, it's a different thing, this is a couple of bucks, and this is $25-$30 or whatever. Even if you buy this at a show, you're going to pay $15-$20 for it. Whereas, something like this, if you buy one of these or two of these from a guy, he'll probably give you one of these just to get it out of his face, right? So there's a place for both in my head. I don't look at them really as equals, I guess. That's the difference between assembling and modeling. It is, and a lot of people get all pissy about this, and it's not really meant as a, at least in my lingo, it's not really meant as a discouraging word, I guess. People get all upset because they think you're calling them a name or something, but this is more of this is more of an assembly process, and that's fine, and there's nothing wrong with this. I thoroughly enjoy this just as much as I enjoy this, and I will guarantee you I will get more frustrated with this than I will with this. And I don't really get frustrated that much, but I'm not going to say I don't, but I couldn't really tell you when the last time I did, because it's all it's all just a process. It's believe it or not, something like this can be more relaxing than something like this FW190, because I expect this to be perfect, right? I know this isn't going to be. I'm fully aware of what I'm getting into when I open up a monogram box. Absolutely, I totally know what I'm in for, and I have expectations of what I'm in for when I open up a Tamiya box. And I'm using Tamiya as the example because that's what I have in my hand. And that's not saying that every Tamiya kit is great, because the older ones are, well, they have some issues. I mean, they're not, they're not this type of ballpark issues. But back when Monogram was pumping out stuff like this with all the raised details and stuff in the cockpit, Tamiya and Eshi and AMT, same people and whatnot, they were using decals in the cockpits. So yeah, they go together easier, but they didn't really have the detail. So what do you there's a trade-off everywhere. There's a trade-off everywhere. So in my head, they're two different things, and they serve two different purposes. And as weird as it sounds, I probably get more relaxation out of this than I do this, because my expectations are much higher with this. I hope that makes sense. And but that's fine. As you know, on this channel, we don't care. Do what you want to do. There is no right and wrong here. Well, unless you want to talk about invasion stripes. No, actually, there's not even with that. I don't care how you do your invasion stripes. But, we won't talk about that. I talk about that too much. Anyway, so that's where I'm at right now on the bench, and I've got some idea of where we're going next. I mean, this is going to be done, this will definitely be done by the weekend or by next Sunday, if not before. This I will probably have at least in primer, because I'm not sure where I'm going with this. If I use the kit decals, it is the only decals in it is for the Tiger Meat, the Spanish Tiger Meat plane from 1991, which there's not a lot of decals, but there's some tiger stripes. It's yellow and black with some tiger stripes. And I might just do that, just because it's not something I'm really super concerned about. But yeah, so after this, this is kind of crazy because there's a very good chance that by the end of February I will have 4 kits done, and my goal has always been to have 1 completion a month, to have 12 completions for the year. And I haven't been able to do that since 2010, when I really kind of started building back on a regular basis. And so this is kind of crazy for me right now. But, I mean, not as an excuse, but to be fair, I'm typically doing stuff like this, and I can totally see where, somebody can crank one of these out every week quite easily. I mean, I know there's plenty of you guys out there that crank stuff like this out every 3 days. And I get it. I get how you can do that. You're not going to do that with this without it driving you crazy. But anyway, so going forward, after these are done, I have some ideas. Tell me what you think. So I'm going to do some armor for a change. And I know at the beginning of the year I said, I'm always going to try and have a monogram kit on the go. And so far this year, out of these 4 kits, 3 of them have been monograms. So, so I don't feel too bad about not going to have a monogram on the bench for a little while. But I had some ideas for a couple of dioramas. I have a, what do I have? I have a T55A. I have a early T62. I have M60A1, and actually I have the what's the one, the Israeli one with the reactive armor on it. Anyway, and then I have Leopard 1A4. I also have a Leopard 2A5, but that's too new. So I'm thinking I want to do a Cold War goes hot diorama, something in Europe. So I'm thinking maybe the Leopard 1A4 versus the T62, and that would put it like mid 70s. And then with the T55 and the M60A1, if I build it without the reactive armor, I think I can do something from the 73 war with that. I'm not sure. I got to do some more research. So, you know, did one of those sound interesting? The Leopard 1A4 is the old Italy kit. The M60A1 is the old Eschi kit. And the T55 is the Tamiya kit, which is supposed to be an excellent kit, from what I've been told. And the T62 I have is the Trumpeter T62 Mod 62 or whatever they call it. They have like a Mod 62 and a Mod 72 with the anti-aircraft machine gun, and I'm not an expert on T62s or anything, so I don't know, if they have the right deck on them on the back or whatever, but the one I have is the early one without the anti-aircraft machine gun and whatnot. So I'd have to dig up some like Cold War era figures and stuff if I was going to do a diorama. But I thought that might be interesting to do. Having to take and somebody used to do, who was it that did, somebody did 135th East German troops years ago, because I remember seeing them. I want to say it was Heller, which means they probably weren't very good. But you'd be amazed what you can do with an old figure and a knife and just carving on that sucker and redefining like the areas around the web gear and how the clothing fits the body, and it's pretty amazing what you can do with a really basic figure and some very, very very bad carving skills. Right? So anyway, yeah, so the assembler versus the modeler thing, I don't see that as an argument in my head at all. It's just two different ways of looking at it. A lot of guys they just like to paint and they don't care about the assembly, and it doesn't mean anything to them. And that's fine, right? There's room for everybody at the table. Like I've said that before in the past. There's room for everybody at the table. We just have to realize these are two different things. And, you watch guys like David Damick, Plasmo, and I haven't watched Night Shift a lot, but Who am I thinking of? There's a few of them, but you know, a lot of the guys that are really popular on YouTube, they're painters. Really, they're artists. So you really have your artists and you have your craftsmen. And in my head, the difference between the two is the artists are painters and weathers, and you know, a lot of your armor guys are artists. Figure painters are obviously artists. I don't even really include figure painters in with modelers. I mean, it's one thing to have a. This will probably going to get me in trouble, but in my head there is a diorama grade figure where the figure is part of the scene, right, and not necessarily. It is not the focal point. And then you have like a vignette, which is a small number of figures, and the figures kind of are the focal point usually with a vignette. With a diorama, you actually have a story. The vignette is still a story, but it's typically centered around the figures. And then you have, you know, your solo figures, your standalone figures. Like this would be a standalone entry in a contest, right? And yeah, that's a whole different thing. You know, these guys that show up with these busts on the pedestals, and that's a whole different ball game. Those guys, don't get me wrong, I'm totally awestruck with a lot of that stuff. But you know, that's on a whole different plane from painting some figures to go on a diorama, in my head. Sure, you can do that quality of work and put it on a diorama, but I don't think it's necessary. You know, it's like model railroading. When I had my last layout that I had in Arizona, and a guy made the comment one day. We had a really nice train shop in Arizona at the time. Well, there's a couple, but a guy told me that. The problem with those new super detailed freight cars is once you put one of those on your layout, everything else looks like crap. You just made everything else on every other freight car you had on your layout. You just made it completely obsolete just by buying that one. What were they? Mountain Express or whatever they were. There was some back in the 90s. There was one company that did some really cool stuff. And it's like, yeah, you put one of those on your layout, and everything else just becomes a problem. It's no longer good enough. So I just thought that was. He's right. I mean, I totally get the point. So. So anyway, there's our F8 again. I'm not sure I'm looking forward to doing that camo, but I'm going to do it. I'm not going to chicken out. And yeah, we'll see. So anyway, going back to the diorama ideas, let me know what you think. You know, I'm open. I mean, and armor goes together pretty quick. So, you know, maybe we do both. Maybe I just build all four of them and we do both. I do have a half-started old Dragon Abrams, but it's a Gulf War Abrams that I started a long time ago, and the side skirts don't fit. They don't line up or something. So I'm not really interested in finishing that or redoing that. That's one of those things that just needs to go away somewhere. But yeah, that's it. I'm running out of stuff here. And anyway, let me know what you think about the dioramas. Send in your entry. You got any comments on what we're talking about here? Please let me know. Hope you enjoyed the book thing. I've got another. I mean, I got lots of books back here, but I'm always looking for interesting books, and I've got one in particular that I want to show you guys that I need to find. I don't know where it is. I haven't even read it. I bought it, and I made the mistake of leaving it on my side table in the living room, and my wife cleaned up one day and it's gone. so yeah, one of those things. But that's it. That's it for this week. Keep an eye out for this FW190 video. I don't know. I've got quite a bit of editing to do on it, but it'll be good. I'm not having much success doing a video on this because I can't get the camera to focus on it. So there probably won't be one on this. This will probably just be mentioned in the live streams. But that's it. Until next week, take care of the people you love, and we'll see you then. Bye.